Hi guys, we're going to do the poem Reapers in a Mieliefield by Mbuyiseni Oswald Mtshali. This poem consists out of 29 lines. We know that the rhyme scheme is free verse, which means that it does not have a specific rhyming pattern. The tone of this poem is oppressive and it hints at slavery, and you'll see why when we analyze the poem line for line. The word choice or diction in this poem has a negative connotation and implies harshness, inhumane treatment, and slavery. The purpose of the title is to describe what the poem is about, and in this case, it's reapers or laborers in a mieliefield. Then, if we look at the theme, the poet highlights the harsh working conditions of laborers. He describes the suffering of the workers through the monotonous routine, the sweat and exhaustion that comes with this kind of manual labor. So the workers in this field work under harsh conditions, harsh weather conditions, they're not treated well, and this is what this poem covers. The mood of this poem is oppressive, and it is illustrated by the description of the conditions under which the laborers work. Alright, so let's have a look at this poem. So we will see a lot of alliteration and assonance throughout the poem, and the purpose of the alliteration and the assonance is just to make it clear, to emphasize the harsh working conditions that the laborers work under. So let's have a look. Okay, so line 1 says, faces furrowed and wet with sweat. Line 2 says, bags tied to their wasp waists. Women reapers bend mealie stalks, break cobs in rustling sheaths, toss them in the bags, and move through row upon row of maize. So that's the first stanza. Furrowed here means wrinkled. Okay, so faces furrowed, that means that their faces look something like this. It's furrowed. And the word furrowed creates a negative image which suggests concentration and hard labor. And also, guys, they're working outside in the sun. They're harvesting mealies. Obviously, it's going to be hot. So the heat also makes their face furrowed. They're wrinkly, okay? And it's because of the heat and the concentration and the hard work that they are doing. Okay, we see also in the first line that wet with sweat. Okay, we see an example of assonance. Wet with sweat, and the repetition of this S sound emphasizes how hard the laborers are working. Alright, then here in line 2, bags tied to their wasp waists. Okay, the bags are for the mealies. While they're harvesting the mealies, they're picking the mealies and they're tossing them in their bags. So the bag is one of their tools, a part of their equipment that they use to harvest these mealies. So they have bags tied around to their wasp waist. Here is another example of alliteration. Okay, and this alliteration is actually a metaphor. Okay, their waists are compared to the waists of wasps. Okay, so it emphasizes their thin waists. It could mean that they are underfed, they are starved, and that's why their waists are so small. And this just emphasizes to us how horrible their working conditions are and the poor treatment they receive. They are not fed luxurious food. They are not continually fed. So chances are that they are malnutrition, they're undernourished, and they actually are starving. They are underweight, they are underfed. And we see here in line 4 that the word rustling is actually an example of onomatopoeia. It is a word that sounds like a sound, okay? So rustling sheaths. Then lines 3 to line 6 shows us that the job that they are doing is physically demanding. They are bending the stalks, they are breaking the cobs, they are tossing them in the bags, and they do this row after row after row. Okay, so the action of picking mealies is described row upon row, and this creates a sense of monotony, the same thing happening over and over and over and over again. Alright, so let's move on. Let's look at the next stanza. Behind them, like a desert tanker, a dust-raising tractor pulls a trailer, driven by a pipe puffing man. So here we see a simile in line 7, behind them, like a desert tanker, a dust raising tractor. Dust raising tractor is being compared to a desert tanker. Okay, so the tractor blows up dust, and this ties in with the idea of a desert tanker. Obviously, a desert tanker is driving in the desert. There's dust and sand blowing up, and this is the same image created here in the poem. Okay, and this emphasizes how dry and how hot it is, just like a desert. Okay, here we see that behind the tractor is a trailer. Okay, and the whole tractor is being driven by a pipe puffing man. So here we see another example of alliteration. Okay, and the person driving this tractor is obviously the farmer. Okay, he is in charge and he drives the tractor while the laborers are doing all the hard work. He is just cruising about in his tractor, enjoying life, and the laborers are the ones who are working hard, picking the mealies. So we just get this image here, which sort of gives a sense of unfairness, okay? And we also get the idea, driven by a pipe puffing man, we get the idea that the farmer is actually part of the machine. It makes him appear inhumane in a way. They didn't call him a farmer, they called him a pipe puffing man, driven by a pipe puffing man. Okay, so it shows us that he also is like machine-like, no sympathy, he's like a robot, okay? He doesn't care that everyone else around him is working and busy dying in the heat. He's just driving his tractor about, okay? And pipe puffing man could also imply that he's a smoker. He smokes the pipe, okay? Which shows that he is enjoying luxuries. He has tobacco, okay? Let's look at the next part. Flashing tobacco-stained teeth as yellow as the harvested grain. So here we see the reason that his teeth is yellow is because he smokes tobacco. He pipes, he's smoking his pipe, he's puffing his pipe, okay? So his teeth are stained. Obviously, he is a continual smoker. He's been smoking for who knows how long, and that's why his teeth are now stained. And we see that his teeth have become as yellow as the mealies. This shows a simile, okay? Simile compares two things using like or as. Okay, so his teeth are as yellow as the harvested grain, as yellow as the mealies. If we look at the next stanza, okay, line 13, he stops to pick up bags loaded by thick-limbed laborers in vests baked brown with dust. All right, so we see over here that the laborers have thick limbs. So thick-limbed laborers. There is another example of alliteration, okay? Thick-limbed means to have well-built arms, muscular arms, and they develop these muscles, okay? So this is why we assume that this stanza refers to the male workers, because they are thick-limbed, they are muscular. And we also see a metaphor here in line 15 and 16. It says, in vests baked brown with dust, okay? When you bake something in the oven, there is a lot of heat. The oven is full of heat and it bakes, for example, bread. You put the dough in, and because it's so hot, it bakes the bread and it bakes the dough and it turns it into bread. So this is what's happening. It is so hot that their vests are being baked and they are brown because of dust. Okay, so this is a beautiful metaphor here, a metaphor to an oven. They are basically in an oven and they are being baked. So that is actually an effective metaphor that shows us just how hot it is, just at how extreme the sun is, the weather conditions. All right, then we move on. Okay, let's look at the next stanza. The sun lashes the workers with a red hot rod. They stop for a while to wipe a brine-bathed brow. All right, so the sun lashes. I want you to ask yourself the question, can the sun lash you literally? No, guys, because it's in the sky. But people can lash one another. And we know that in the past, slave drivers have lashed the slaves. They forced them to work, so they hit them with whips. They lash them across the back. And that is what we're getting here. We're getting this image that the sun is lashing the workers. Let's investigate this a bit further. It says that it lashes the workers with a red hot rod. Okay, so we know that the workers are working in extreme conditions. The sun is very hot, and the sun is personified as lashing the workers. And this image suggests to us that the cruel conditions under which the laborers work, okay, is extreme. They work under horrible conditions. They are basically creating an image of slavery in our minds, okay? Red hot rod over here, red hot rod, indicates just how hot the sun is. The sun is battering them with the heat. It is hitting them with the heat, okay? And it has connotations of being painful. If you've been out in the sun too long and you've been sunburnt and you come inside, it feels like someone has hit you on your back because the sunburn stings so much. And this is what is happening to the workers. They are not under shade or under umbrellas while they work. No, they are in the harsh conditions, in the sun, burning. They are baking. Okay? And now if we see here, to wipe a brine bath brow, okay, this shows us that the conditions that they are working under is hot and they are sweating. When you sweat, I don't know if you have ever tasted your own sweat, but it is salty, and brine is salt water. So their forehead is soaked with sweat, okay? Brow refers to your forehead area. They are soaked with sweat. It is so hot, and they describe it as a brine bath. It's like drenched in sweat, okay? This shows us how hot it is, all right? And if we move on, we look here, line 22 to 23. And drink from battered cans, bubbling with multi mau. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, guys. Please let me know if I'm not, and leave me a comment in the comment section to let me know how it's actually pronounced. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Okay, but the word bubbling here is an example of onomatopoeia. Okay, bubbling. The word sounds like the sound. Okay. Here, we also know that here they stop for a while to take a break. They're taking a break. Okay, and now we see here in line 23 and 22, they drink from battered cans. Okay, this could imply that they themselves are battered. They are battered by the heat, the work, the hard work. They must be tired. So this is just an image to portray how they are feeling. They too feel like battered cans. And it can also highlight the fact that they are poor. They do not drink from silver shiny flasks. They do not drink from mugs and cups. No, they drink from battered cans. And that highlights poverty to us. It highlights the conditions that they are working under, that they are not treated and given luxuries, but instead they are forced to work with what they have. Okay, and they drink bubbly mahu. Okay, mahu is a fermented maize drink. So they are taking a break, they're relaxing, and they're actually drinking something, and it is a fermented maize drink. Okay, if we move on here to the last stanza, thirst is slacked in seconds. Okay, slacked here means that their thirst is quenched. Okay, they have satisfied their desire for water or for liquids. Okay, so thirst is slacked in seconds, and we see here that men jerk bags like feather cushions. So here, after their break, when they return back to working, they are chucking the bags of mealies. The men are chucking the bags of mealies as if they were feather cushions. So that shows that they are renewed now. Previously they were tired, so they stopped to have a break. And now that they are done with their break, they have the energy to just throw the bags of mealies onto the tractor, and they do it as if it were feather cushions. It is light to them now. They have their strength back. Here it says, and women become prancing wild mares. Okay, here we see an example of a metaphor, because they become wild prancing mares. They are comparing them to wild mares. Okay, jumping about. Mares implies a female horse, so I don't know if you've seen videos of cute horses jumping around, but that's how these women started to act. They were so excited, they had their energy back after they took a break, and they were renewed, and now they were able to prance around like wild mares. Okay, we see here in line 28 and 29, soon the day's work will be done. Here again we see alliteration, work will be done. And the reapers will rest in their kraals. Okay, so we know here that the men are strong from doing hard labor. They can easily lift the heavy bags. We also know that women are compared to wild prancing mares. They look forward to the end of the day and they are excited. But here in the last line it says the reapers will rest in their kraals. So first of all, their homes were often referred to as kraals. So at the end of the day, they would go home. But a kraal is also an enclosure where cattle is kept. So it actually appears as if they are being compared, the workers, the laborers are being compared to cattle. And this could imply that the workers are dehumanized and they are compared to cattle. Okay? They are treated so badly in their job that they are basically treated like cattle. They are drinking out of battered cans. They are first forced to work in the hot sun like cattle would be forced. So there's no difference in the treatment of cattle and how they are being treated. So it shows us how much the humans, the laborers, are being dehumanized. They are being compared to animals. Let's have a look and see if we can answer some of these questions to prepare for tests and exams. The first question is, what are the laborers doing? Okay, they are harvesting mealies. The title says reapers in a mealie field. They are reaping, they are harvesting mealies. What equipment do they have? So they mentioned three things. They mentioned that they have bags tied around their wasp waist. They mentioned a tractor, and they mentioned a trailer at the back of the tractor. This is the equipment they are working with. Describe the weather conditions. Okay, it's extremely hot. The sun lashes them. It is dry, and it is dusty. Those are the conditions that the workers work in. What do they drink when they are thirsty? Okay, mahu. Identify the poetic device used in stanza 4. Well, in stanza 4, we see personification, okay? Because the sun is being personified as a slave driver who lashes the workers to force them to keep working. Okay, discuss how it contributes to your understanding of the laborers' working conditions. Alright, so this image, the image of the sun being a slave driver, evokes feeling of extreme pain and suffering. When you are lashed on the back, I'm sure that it is painful. Okay? The conditions they work under are dreadful. Nobody wants to work like that. That is horrible conditions to be in. Refer to lines 25 to 26 and identify the figures of speech and how they will illustrate the effect of the break that the laborers have taken. So the first image is a simile. Here the heavy bags which contain mealies become as light as bags which contain feathers. They have renewed energy. Okay, this shows renewed energy the men have as a result of the break. The second image is a metaphor where the women are described as prancing wild mares. This comparison demonstrates the renewed vigor with which the women return to their work. So after the break, they just have so much energy that they can keep going. They have their strength back. In your opinion, does the poet succeed in conveying the extreme working conditions of the workers? Give a reason for your answer by referring closely to the text. Okay, I would say that Mtshali does convey the extreme working conditions of these workers. The work is physically demanding, and we know this because he describes their faces as furrowed and their faces being wet with sweat. It is also very dusty work. Their vests are baked brown with dust, and we know that the sun beats down on them mercilessly. It lashes them. The heat is pounding on them. Okay, the sun lashes the workers with a red hot rod. Alright guys, I hope this has helped you gain a better understanding of this poem. Please feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Leave me a comment in the comment section. I hope this has helped you. Good luck.